Breaking news, Mavericks are trading Luca Doncic to the Lakers for Anthony Davis.
This deal materialized in the shadows. Luca Doncic, Anthony Davis, LeBron James had no idea this was coming.
This was the biggest trade in NBA history.
LeBron has dreamed about playing with Luca Doncic for years.
The Dallas Mavericks, clearly you lost all faith in Luca Doncic.
Dallas won it for the now, and the Lakers won it for the future.
All morning long, we're covering maybe the biggest trade in NBA history. Right now, Windy and Jay Will. Monica McNutt gets up with us early today. And again, don't miss Charles Barkley, Stephen A., and Michael Wilbon. All still to come. We tend to like putting these things, McNutt, in the framework of who won a trade. It doesn't always turn out that way. But if I were to ask you that question, who won this deal Saturday night?
Well, Grinny, for me, looking at it, I got to go Dallas. In fact, once we digested that this was not a joke, I'm sitting in the cab on the way home from the Lakers-Knicks game, and I'm like, I actually don't hate this for Dallas. I mean, you look at what Anthony Davis brings in terms of his two-way ability, his presence in the paint, his scoring. He's been available in the last couple of seasons, which he deserves a ton of kudos for. And Kyrie Irving is still capable of being an A1. I mean, essentially, the Dallas Mavericks had defenders flanking Luca Doncic to come up or to cover for his, skills on that side of the floor. So if this team could continue to defend at a high level, I think they have offensive prowess. In the right now, I definitely would give the edge to Dallas.
I appreciate that you were trying to say that in as kind a way as you could. Can we put up A33A, please? Because if there is there are criticisms of Luca Doncic that are legitimate, and his defense is certainly one of them. Again, A33A. His defense, the last 2 years with Luca as the primary defender, opponents drive past him just about 45% of the time, which is the worst percentage out of any defender in the entire league in that span. And Windy, I'm thinking back to during the NBA Finals, you were on here and other places right after Game 3 when the Mavericks fell into a hole from which no team could ever recover. And you, Windy, were, by your standards, I thought, uncharacteristically really frustrated and angry about Luca and his defense, or lack thereof, and some things about his attitude. For those who don't remember all of that, because they've been knee-deep in football season, can you sort of get everyone caught up on why, from that perspective, this might make more sense than the offensive numbers would suggest?
Yes, I was frustrated because Luca did not, and what I thought was an elimination game, did not bring it defensively, and also completely lost his cool and hurt his team, which he had done in big moments in his career repeatedly. And that was absolutely a concern. However, I don't doubt that he can get past that. I have no idea whether he will, but I believe that that would be part of his arc, that someday he would be holding the Finals trophy and the Larry O'Brien trophy and saying, hey, remember back in 2024 when I failed? Well, here I succeed, because we've seen that over and over. And while I do admit there's a percentage chance that Luca Doncic will never get it, that he'll never get his emotions under control, that his conditioning will lead to injuries as he ages, and his defense is a problem, all of those things are possible. I think it's really an early stage to give up on him at age 25. But the one thing I will say is that nobody in the world has more information about Luca Doncic than the Dallas Mavs. They took all their information, all their evaluations about him as a player and as a person and where they think he was going to go, and they said, we can't give this guy $300 million. They opted out of that.
Jay Will, can you make it make sense to me? Again, this is a guy, I had votes in these things. I mean, he was top 2, top 3 in the MVP voting multiple times. He's not yet 26 years old. He will be at the end of this month. I understand the criticisms and the shortcomings. If you were to assess Luca Doncic right now and what LeBron James and J.J. Redick need to be saying to him the minute he gets there, what things would you say?
It's time to work, man. It's time to work. Monica, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, like all these things could be so true, Grinny, that you're spitting to me about. Same with Wendy. And he is one of the most gifted offensive players the game of basketball has ever seen, ever, right? But what do we think about leaders of organizations, right? The body language. Wendy, I've heard you talk about it. I've talked about it, Grinny, on your show. Monica, you've seen it. There are times where you're like, yo, what's going on with this body language? Come into preseason, weighing 260 pounds. Like, I know it's going viral. The video of Mike Finley coming and grabbing the beer away from me. I know it's celebration, but it's about championship-like habits. And I've known Nico Harrison since I've been 16 years old. I'm not condoning or going against the decision. Wendy, you were right about him knowing more information than anybody else. But if you see those type of habits from a leader on a daily basis, and that's concerning enough to let you move him, that's volumes about we don't trust the keys of this organization in his pocket moving forward. So that's what LeBron has to teach him, how to be a champion on a day in, day out basis. And that starts with daily championship habits.
Monica.
So this is where it gets really interesting to me. And I am extremely complimentary and referential to the presence of a LeBron James. But I think when I look at Luca Doncic, and I'm with Wendy and I'm with Greeny, and then I'm not going to project whether he will or won't. But this is a guy that's been a professional basketball player since he was, 13? He's averaging 27 and 7, at least 27 and 7. One of 3 guys to do that alongside LeBron and Jokic. And he could do it in his sleep. The idea of student mentor, sensei, grasshopper, the whole thing, I'm just really curious how this plays out. Because, again, this is a young man, not an American-born athlete, like been a pro all of these years, has had tremendous success already. I'd like to believe that there's another level and there's a commitment, and perhaps this trade spawns another side of him. We know that elite athletes are motivated in all types of ways, but I'm just watching. It's going to be fascinating to watch this unfold.
Wendy.
I think there's the belief that the Lakers have here is that they can get the best from him as he moves into his prime and that he can learn from what's happened to him. In a way, how he reacts to this trade can benefit them. I'd also point out that this trade is going to cost him over $100 million because the Lakers are not eligible to sign him to a supermax. And that alone, you would think, would fire Luka Doncic up. But we have seen players, and we've even seen great European players, go through transformations at this stage of their career. I will offer up Nikola Jokic, who was given the belief that he could do anything but had some conditioning issues. But the Mavericks are betting against it, and the Lakers are betting on it. And that is one of the most impactful decisions that these two franchises have ever made in their history.
I will say again, for those who are just joining us, that on ESPN Bet, the odds on the Lakers to win the championship fell significantly. They went from 40-1 to 16-1. Everyone here seemed to think that made no sense, that in the short run, the Lakers did not get better. So, Jay, I'll ask you to do some math for me. LeBron plus Luka in the short run, the rest of this year, what does that equal?
I mean, it equals somebody that offensively can share the load with LeBron. But the first thing I thought about when I came off the Duke UNC game and was up at 2 o'clock in the morning and saw this news break was, okay, in the possessions, who gets the ball, who makes the play? Now, I know that it's never that simple, right? Because obviously there's a fluidity and continuity to the game, and you make the right reads, and now you have 2 prolific read makers on the court who are exquisite passers and get the scores. But their games are so similar. What kind of ancillary, complementary pieces can you put around them? Going back to what Wendy said about 20 minutes ago, this is obviously impactful because the Lakers are building towards the future. So I don't think you're going to see the immediate results that are going to translate towards the Lakers making a deep playoff run at all. I think they got worse defensively, which when you get into the lines of the playoffs, you need great defense to win championships. But I do think you'll see some different, tweaks of their game offensively because it allows J.J. Redick to really expand what that offensive playbook looks like.
McNutt?
I'm just going to add this. I know Luka is the headline on this one, Luka and AD, but Max Christie was in this deal. And Max Christie went in the Lakers starting lineup December 8th. And then you look at the metrics since he went into the starting lineup, there's some significant ticks in terms of their defense improving. So you bear in mind that this is a little bit of an overhaul, not just offensively. We're focused offensively, but I think defensively, what identity the Lakers were finding was just notably disrupted as well.
So, Wendy, help me with something. I'm trying to make sense of this, and we see this frequently in the NFL, that aging quarterbacks do not want teams to make moves for the future. They want teams to make moves that can help them win in the limited time they have left. I'm equating LeBron James in that. His team, ostensibly, just made a move for their next 10 years, but not for the next 10 months. And he's 40 years old. Do we think he's okay with this? I mean, down deep inside, I'm trying to find a way for him to think, oh, this is great. I'm delighted that this just happened this weekend. I couldn't be more thrilled. I'm trying to figure out a way to make that make sense in my own head. Wendy, can you help me?
Well, I'm a big actions over words situation. So let's look at actions this week. We saw Anthony Davis waive his $6 million trade bonus. That was an indication he's fine with this trade. I don't care what he says. His actions said, I'm going to make this trade easier, leave $6 million. LeBron, through our reporting with Dave McMenamin, is not intending to ask for or seek a trade at all. That leads me to believe that he wants to see how this goes. And their three best players are LeBron James, Luca Doncic, and Austin Reeves. All three of them are on the perimeter. All three of them are not good defenders. LeBron occasionally plays good defense, but night in and night out is a shell of his former self. Their backline defensive leader right now is Jackson Hayes. That is not a team that is going to go anywhere. Okay, LeBron knows that. He wants to see what happens maybe the rest of this week and into next summer. But I think LeBron is very fascinated at the idea of playing with Luka. He's actually thought about it for years. There was a moment a couple of years ago where Kyrie Irving actually reached out to LeBron and said, hey, why don't you come to Dallas and play with me and Luka? And the reason he did that was because how much he knows he likes Luka. So I think LeBron wants to see what happens here.
All right, Wendy, outstanding. Everyone stay where you are. We will continue the cavalcade of conversation.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm gonna try to wear, I pull up all brains. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA over here, feeling fun.